Hi everyone, this is Matt from ESU, and today we're going to continue our series of the Lok Programmer and the LokSound5 sound file creation, getting a little bit deeper into the sound tab of the Lok Programmer. So what we're going to do today is learn how to create a template and add a horn from one file that may not be in the file that you want to be working with. So we're going to add something new from something that exists in another file. This can be done with horns. It can be done with any sound, really. We can swap a whole sound slot from one file into another. Now, there's multiple ways of doing this. You can, in a lot of cases, just simply copy and paste. But today we're going to create a template so that maybe you want to create something special of your own and you want to be able to use that in multiple files. So a brand new template creation is something that is very beneficial for creating your own sound files. So let's start off by just looking on the website. Again, as a refresher, we want to look for a file to edit. We usually want to start with something that's a fresh file. Today I want to start with something that I know has a lack of a particular horn that I'm looking for. So it doesn't really matter. This is whatever file you're working on, whatever locomotive that you're going to be installing this in. Obviously, that's the file that you start with. And if you want to know what horns it has in it, just click on More, and you can scroll down and you can see this has the second generation switcher horn pack number 1. We've done multiples of these packs in most cases, so this shows exactly which one is already installed in the file, and we're going to show you how to change those packs today. So here you can see we have a A125, an S25, S3KR, SL3R, S5T, on and on and on. But it doesn't have a number of other horns in there that I know are in some other files. Today we're going to look at something that's pretty special. We're going to put in an SL4T. Now, by design and a brand new MP15, this is an MP15 file, that horn would not be on it. It's pretty special. It was created for an Amtrak SDP40F. But say this is on a short line, and one of the crew has a horn that he wants to put on the locomotive, and maybe it stayed on a while. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Whatever you want on that you can create, and that's what I want on this engine. So as I can see here, though, it's not in this template pack. Well, I do know where it's at. So what I would do, it's from an SDP40F, so I can go up to my search engine here and type in SDP40F, and you can see as I got to hit search. So as I scroll down here, that gets me in the ballpark. But here is my SDP40F file. As I hit more, I can see here, there's my SL4T. So that's the horn that I'm looking for. So I download both files. Now I've already done that, so I'm going to save us a little bit of time. And let's minimize that. And here we are. This is the SDP40F file. This is a 16-cylinder 645 E3B, but it has some special things going on with it. As an example would be that horn. So if I go into the horn, which is Soundslot 3, I can see, if I just look down, here it is. Here's the SL4T. So that's where the horn is at. I've also downloaded the 12-cylinder 645E, and this is a fairly new file that we just recorded off of an MP15 up in Michigan. This engine's been around for a while. It's on a small short line there, and the guys there have their own collection of horns, and once in a while they'll put their own thing on the locomotive. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to pretend like maybe one of them brought in an SL4T, and we want to put that into the locomotive. So as I can see going into the Soundslot 3 on here, looking at the horns that are available, once again, there is no SL4T. So in order to get that, there's multiple ways to do it. So again, sometimes there's some good ways to use these templates. It doesn't just have to be for horns. So I want to show you specifically first how to create a template pack. So let's go back to our original file. Here's the one with the SL4T. And we're going to take this whole second generation Horn Pack 3 and create a template out of it. We're just going to put this template pack into the MP15 file, and it'll be in there at that point, and we can use it. So the first thing we want to do is create a new folder in our templates. So as we go back one more screen here, we can see all the list of sound slots on the left, and as we work our way over to the right, we can see the sound library or the template packs that are installed. The most recent template pack is 1.9. I know that we're behind as of the filming of this video. We need to get another template pack out, and we are working on it, I promise. But in the meantime, here's how you would create a new one. So the first thing I want to do as I look at these templates, I need to know, okay, this is an air horn. I'm going to just try to keep it clean. I'm going to put it into an air horn folder, which will already exist. This happens to be a US horn pack, so I'm going to put it into the USA. I actually have LokSound5 horn templates already in here because I helped create them. You will probably not have this unless you create it yourself. So the first thing I want to do is create a new folder here. Now for me, I found the easiest way to do this is to go up to Tools, and I go to Program Settings, and you'll see right here where your template pack is actually located on your computer. If you were to type this into your, if you open up a folder and put it in, you can go right to the location where your templates are at. You can rename it or get to that location by simply clicking this button, and this will take you right there. And as you scroll down through the tree, you'll see right away here are your templates. And if I open up air horns, this gets me right to where I was. I want to put this again in a USA folder. So that opens up the folder, but one step here is really important, or you may not be able to find this later. You want to highlight the folder that you're going to be putting this new template folder into. By doing that, that tells you where it's going to go. If I hadn't have highlighted that, it would have been the last thing that I clicked on. So if I opened up this air horn, it would have been in the air horn folder, but it wouldn't have been directly in the USA folder. So again, I want to make sure that the folder that I'm putting the new folder into is highlighted. So then I simply click Make New Folder, and you'll see it fills itself in alphabetical order right into the list of folders that are already there. And I'm going to give this a new name, From the Workbench, because that's the series that we're working with. So once I've given it a name, simply click OK. And I don't need to save changes. I can just cancel out of this. I didn't actually change anything here. This is just getting me to the location where those templates were. So I close that out. And now as we look, here's my new folder, From the Workbench. So again, same thing. I want to highlight what it is that I want to move on the left, and I want to highlight the folder that I want to move it into. So if you notice, when I did that, this arrow turned blue because I have a actual sound slot highlighted, and I have a folder that I want to go into. Now let me show you something very quickly here. Here's an empty sound slot. There's nothing in there right now. Say I want to just simply put something there. If you double click on any of the horns, you can test them, as we just found out. So if I single click though, and I have an empty sound slot, and this is the actual sound that I'm going to put in there, I can single click on it, and right away this blue arrow to the left will highlight. That tells me that I'm okay to directly move this particular horn, this dual Isley A200, over to sound slot 16. Now that's not what I'm going to do. I just wanted to show you the difference in how the arrows work. So let's close that back up. I highlight the folder again that I want to put it into. Notice no arrows are lit up because there's nothing in this sound slot. Let's go back up to the second generation Horn Pack 3. As soon as I click and highlight it, this right arrow lights up, showing me that I'm now good to transfer that sound slot into a new template inside this workbench, from the workbench folder, I should say. So I click to the right. It's going to ask me to name the template itself. I'm going to leave it the name that it is because that's an accurate representation of what's in there. I hit Save the Template. Now, it was that easy. If I go up and I open this new folder, there's my new template. So now that it's in here, this is saved on my computer so that it's there no matter which file that I open up. And to prove that, let me open up my 12-cylinder file again. Now let me get back to the overview. So here again, second generation switcher horn pack, auto bell trigger. Remember the last one I was working with was the third generation. So if I then go back to air horns, USA, and see from the workbench that new folder is now there, and there's my second generation horn pack 3 instead of the switcher pack. So now here's a problem. I can directly write over, well, you can see there's something in here already. If I click on it and I click the actual template pack, it'll let me directly write over what's in there. That's one way to do it. You can, by highlighting this, you can right click on that line and delete the sound slot altogether, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete it. And I like to do this because the sounds from there are still down in the folder. You can actually you can see where they were, but they're not being used right now. They're highlighted, or they're light gray instead of the dark gray like the bells down here, which means those sounds are still within this sound file. So to save on memory of the file itself, I'm not going to use those anymore. I know that. So I can go up to sound and remove unused sounds, and they will now disappear. They'll delete themselves out of the file. So now they're not in there anymore, and I have a little bit more memory to work with. So now I've completely deleted that sound slot. Now it's a safer bet that I will have no trouble when I highlight the template that I want to move into the sound slot. I hit the left arrow, and then I'll move what I just created into a brand new file. And now when I go and I look, there's my SL4T in my 12-cylinder 645 file. So that's pretty easy. It took a little while to explain, but that's about a 3-minute process when once you get this down. So very, very simple. So that's one way to do this. And not only do I have the SL4T, but I also have all these other horns. So maybe something else in there is of interest, and you can use CV163 to switch in between all of these. SV9 is the equivalent of CV163. So let's look at what this is for just a second. So if I look at my transition line here, I think I remember talking about the fact that if I have I have conditions up above, and I have the share 2.7 equals true. That's an action. So I'm setting share 2.7 to a value of true. Now that's a share, so that tells me that I'm sharing this between another sound slot. So I'm talking to another sound slot by using the share feature. Now I know in my case that is talking to the bell template. So now if I go into the bell and I double click, I can see somewhere here, maybe not. Oh, I know why. Let's get back into the bell. It's the auto bell that it's talking to. And if I double click in here, I can now see that it's looking for my share features, and you can see how things are changing here. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. That's just a quick showing of how that share is used. We'll get into shares and shifts and all of that a little bit more later on. But let's get back to what we were doing, which is creating new templates and copying one sound from one file into another file. So let's get back into my horn pack. I'm going to clean this up. I got a lot open up here, and that can get confusing. So I don't need any of the bell template stuff open. Let's get back to the horn. So as I was saying, now my SL4T is in here. So that is one way to create all of this. So maybe I don't want all of these horns to be changed out. Maybe I just want one of them to be different. So let's go back to the original file. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the 16-cylinder file. And let's see. What's a better way to do this? I didn't save anything yet. So let's go back into my... how do we do this here? That's the best way, I should say. I know how to do it. Here we go. So let's open this up as a fresh file again. I do not want to save what I'm doing. I want to get exactly back to how it was as I downloaded it. So I've just basically just deleted all the work that we just did to move that template. So now I have the second generation switcher horn pack back in here. So in this case, I want to just move over one sound, one horn. I don't want to move this, or I don't want to create this as a full template. I just want to take one of these or add that as one more horn. So again, a couple different ways to do this. The easiest way is to pick one here that you don't want anymore and just get rid of it. So that's what I'm going to do first. Well, let's go back to my 16-cylinder file where my SL4T is. And here it is here. So I can click on just the container of this horn, and then once I have it highlighted, just that container, I can right click on it, and that'll give me another window of more options, and I can just simply copy this container. And what it's doing is it's copying the container itself and everything in it. So all these different wave lines or wave files, all of the transition lines that are built in this whole schedule of sounds, everything there is now copied. So now let's switch back to my switcher sounds. And as you can see, I'm back here. I'm into the second generation switcher pack, no SL4T. But I'm not going to use a Leslie A125. That's in my model, I don't want that horn. So I'm going to simply click on this one and right click again, hit delete. Now that gets rid of it. And remember, as a general rule, what I normally do is once I've deleted something, I want to go up and remove unused sound, and that just gets it out of the library of what's downloaded so that I don't have wasted memory being used. So now that I have that deleted, I right-click in the same area, and I still have the SL4T that I copied, so I just simply hit paste. And it's going to usually put it exactly where it was on the other screen, so you might have to look down a little bit. But here it is, pasted in. Done, right? Well, almost. I have to connect these transition lines to the new container. One going in and one coming back out. And now that's there. Sometimes it'll have a little bit of snap to a location, so that's what happened there. Just pulled me into a little bit. You can move that all around anywhere you want it to be. So now that it's in the file, it's there, and I can test that in my simulator. I could have done that in the other one as well. And I want to go to SVs because these are sound values. So this is basically an SV. We'll do more into this. The SV are individual sounds that I can actually change with a CV outside of the Lok programmer. So in this case, I use them for horns. We can go to the information tab here, and we can look. These are, I put them right here. These are sound CVs, SVs. So this is sound CV9, which I just showed you, and that shows here as the equivalent is 163. So 163 to 0 would have been my Leslie A125. I've now changed that so that SV9 to 0 is my Leslie SL4T. And again, I can go back to my simulator, go into the SVs, change this to 0 because that's what the one I want to test is. And I can use the function button down here just like I would on my controller, my throttle. And I can test that out. If I want to hear the next one, I can just bump up my SV9 to 1. So F equals true and SV9 equals 1. Then I can play the next file, which is the S25. Now this is not a latching button. This is this is a latching button, not a momentary button. So I have to click it to turn it on and click it to turn it back off again. Unlike some of your throttles, which will be momentary, so as long as you're pressing it and let go, it'll stop. This is latching, so just keep that in mind when you're testing. So that's another very simple way to do this. So there's one more method, and this is getting more in-depth into how do you create a sound file. So all of these Well, I'll get into that a little bit. I was going to explain the auto bell trigger. That's a whole video in and of itself, so we'll explain that at another time. So the next way to do this, I'm going to go with a different horn this time. Let's go back to my 16-cylinder 645 E3. And I've already gone in. I take that back. Let's continue to use the SL4T. I want to double click on it. And now I can see this is the sound schedule for this particular horn. So instead of getting the whole container, let's just simply copy this particular horn. And same thing, I've selected all of it. I can right click and hit copy. Now I've just drag it and selected it that way. You could also right click and select all. If you do that, make sure you select all and not select all states. If you select all states, you'll notice I've only got the states themselves and not the transition lines. So that's important. If you're going to copy all the contents of this, you want to make sure that you have all of the transition lines as well. So select all and then copy. Now let's go back to our 12-cylinder file. Open up the switcher pack. Now, in this case, I only want one horn. I'm not going to have anything else in here, and all of these horns are taking up memory, which I want to use for something else, something I've created, maybe something I've recorded, and I want to create space so that I can add that to the file. You can see up here the memory of the file and how full it is, this blue line, and you have a little bit of gray left, but not a whole lot. So if I get rid of all of these sounds, then I'll have a lot more gray left. Now, I see something here that I have gotten tripped up on, so I want to point it out to you guys. If I try to do something now and select or move this, I'm going to have trouble. And the reason is, and you can see that this is green, this follows as I'm testing in the simulator. It's a very helpful tool, but it's also showing me that the simulator is still on. So when the simulator is on, I can't select or do anything to change this. So if I simply turn the simulator off, now I can click and move things around again. So again, it trips me up once in a while, so I wanted to point it out as a tip to you guys as well. So again, let's get rid of all of these sounds to create some memory. So again, select all, right click and delete. Now it's gone, and instantly you'll look above and you'll see that now there's more memory inside the file. So remember, I've already copied from the other pane, the other file I should say. Now if you have done something else and you want to be sure, go back and copy it again. Sometimes you get out of order and you start to do some copying and pasting, and you can copy the wrong thing and again just get out of order is the best way to put it. So I've now gone back and I've copied this again. And as we get back to my 645 12-cylinder, empty slate, so I want to paste it into here. Now, I was inside of a container before, and now I'm just in an open sound slot, so I need to make some changes here. So instead of going to a beginning and an end inside that container, I'm now going straight from mute. So I need to change this out. Oh, I gotta click out of it here. So we're going to coming from mute, and we're going to be going back to mute. So we need to click this into here, and we can move these around. Sometimes they kind of have a memory from the previous file that they were coming from. And if we keep straight lines, if we want to move, maybe we want to put an angle, if we double click, it'll create a box, and now you can change that. So in this case, if you want to get rid of that, you just make it straight. Now that goes away. Now we have an easy straight line, nice and clean. So we have a mute state, and we have an initial wave, an initial two wave, a fast exit, a loop, an exit. So what does all this mean? If I try to test this right now, first off, I can just try to validate it, and it'll validate, it'll work. But there's nothing telling it to go in, to leave mute and to go into my wave. As soon as the sound slot's active and the file is turned on, the horn's going to play because it's always true. I'm not giving it any condition. So I have to tell it that I can only go into here if the function button is pressed. So I have to give it a condition. So in this case, we go up to add a new condition. We go down to function, because that's what we're looking for, and in more videos I'll go over what all these mean, but in this case I'm just looking to turn a function button on. Doesn't matter what function button, just wherever I map it in the function mapping chart, if that button is turned on, if that function is on, then I want this to play. So we just simply, that function equals true, because yes, it is turned on, and we hit OK. And now as we click animate, we can see now it's f equals true. Now that's really all we need to do, because once it starts, f equals true here. If f is still on, it's going to continue here. If f is still on, if f is still on, it's going to go down here, and it's going to go to my loop. And it's going to continue to play this loop until f now equals false. I've turned off the function button. In this case, I just pressed it real fast. It's already turned off. It's going to look to see if it's on or off before this wave file finishes playing. So if it's already off, it's going to skip the loop and it's going to go right out. That's how we get so much playability in our horns. So once it's on its way out, I don't need another false here, because there's no other escape. I can't just stop here. It has to finish and go back to the mute state, because I've turned the function off. So now if we test this, there is no SVs. I don't have to worry about SVs in any way. It doesn't matter what it's set to, because I'm not looking for an SV. All I'm looking for is to see if the function is turned on. And it is. So if I now turn the function on, and again, this is great to watch, because that green filled in box will show you where in the sound schedule it's playing, so I can see what's happening. If I just press function very quickly and turn it back off, it's looking here. It's looking to see if the button is still on. It's going to continue on. If it's not still on, it's going to come out. So in my case here, I pressed it so fast it never went to the initial 2. It came right out. Very short blast on the horn. If I press it a little longer, but press it to turn it off before it leaves this initial 2 wave, it'll exit out. If I continue to hold it in, it'll stay in the loop until I press it again and then exit. So those are the 3 ways to move a sound file from, I should say, a piece of a sound file into another sound file. So in this case, it was a horn. Again, we can do this with any of the sounds. Maybe I like the air compressor or the coupler sound from one file and I'd like it into another. Maybe I've got a number of ST40-2s, but there we have a couple different dynamic brake fans. Maybe you want to change that up so you have a little bit of different variety. You can copy one that's different. Here's brake fan 1, maybe you can find brake fan 2, and now you'll have a little bit of difference between those 2 files. Again, they're compressors, radiator fans, all of these things can be changed. Maybe it's a brand new, or an older ST40-2 that's been rebuilt, but now instead of having a hand brake, it has an electric hand brake. It's not a brake wheel, it's an electric hand brake. So you could swap this out. All of that is done in the same way as what we've just done with the horns. In those cases, you can copy and paste. You can create a template, or you could copy the whole template. We have other templates. Here's air dryer templates, so your spitter valves. There's lots. If you have multiple spitters in there, anytime we have multiples of a sound, we've created a template for it. Here's the brake squeal template. So we have multiple brake squeals built into there. So usually when you see a template, we're going to switch those from one sound to another inside the template with those SVs. Now you can find those SVs in the sound slot settings, and usually we have them named already. So in this case, SV9 was the horn. And again, we want that. Well, now that we have just one horn in there, it won't matter because we're not looking for that anymore. So theoretically, I could actually go into horn. I could delete the name, which gets rid of it out of the list. And now that SV9 could be used for something else if I were being creative. So we have a template for the bells, brake squeals, air dryers. We have a starting time delay. We have, in this this file, we have Smart Start, so we can adjust how long the Smart Start cycle is. We have an auto bell timer. Maybe now the bell is triggering by the horn, so if you blow the horn, some of the new FRA mandates are saying on new locomotives as they're built that if you blow the horn, the bell will start automatically, and then it will time out, or in many cases the locomotive engineer will turn the bell off, but that gets harder to do, so we've just made it so that it times out. You can adjust that timer by adjusting this. So you can also change your notch points, where on your throttle as you're turning it up and down the notches change. We keep everything standard, but if somebody wants that different, that's where you change your SVs. So I'll have a whole video on the SVs at another time, but I just kind of wanted to quickly show you how to adjust that if you were using them for your horns or for other things. So I hope that's clear for everybody. If you have any questions, please email us at support@loksound.com. Thank you. Have a great day.